The beginning. Marcus Williams grew up in a neighborhood on the south side of Chicago that most people only see on the news. His mother, Diane, worked as a nurse's assistant at Cook County Hospital, a job that barely paid enough to cover rent and the basics. His father had left when Marcus was 4 years old, leaving behind a void that nothing could quite fill. The apartment they shared was small, with peeling paint on the walls and a window that never closed properly, letting in the cold Chicago winters with brutal efficiency. Marcus's younger sister, Destiny, was 9 years old, and she looked up to her big brother like he was a superhero, even though he felt like anything but. By the time Marcus turned 17, he had learned how to be invisible in a world that didn't care about his existence. He went to Lincoln High School, a place where the hallways were crowded and the resources were sparse. Teachers did their best, but the system was broken. Half his classmates had already dropped out or been pushed into the criminal justice system. The other half were just trying to survive until graduation. Marcus was different though. While his friends stood on street corners after school, Marcus would go to the public library and hide away in the corner, teaching himself music through YouTube videos and free tutorials online. No one knew about his voice. Not his friends. Not his teachers. Not even his mother, because he was too afraid to let anyone down if he failed. He would sing in the shower. He would sing on the long bus rides home from school, quietly, so no one would notice. He would sing in the basement of the community center when no one was around, his voice echoing off the concrete walls like it was searching for someone to hear it, someone to believe in it. The audition. When the America's Got Talent auditions came to Chicago, Marcus's friend Deshaun dared him to try out. It was meant as a joke, a way to get Marcus to do something crazy for once in his life. But something about that dare planted a seed. Marcus thought about his mother working those brutal shifts. He thought about his sister Destiny asking him when he was going to do something great. He thought about all those nights singing alone, wondering if any of it meant anything. He filled out the audition form at 3 in the morning in their apartment, using the free Wi-Fi from the neighbor's network. He wrote his name. He wrote his age. When they asked him to describe himself, he stared at the screen for 20 minutes before typing, "I'm just a boy from Chicago who wants his family to be proud of him." The rejection came quick. They didn't accept him. The audition was full. There were thousands of applicants. But Marcus had copied down the email address of the casting coordinator, and he did something he rarely did. He took a risk. He wrote back. He wrote about his mother. He wrote about his sister. He wrote about singing in basements and buses and shower stalls because it was the only place he felt alive. He wrote like his life depended on it, because in a way, it did. 3 weeks later, he got an email back. They wanted him to audition. The coordinator had been moved by his story. Marcus read that email 47 times, according to his mother's later count. The morning of the audition, Marcus couldn't eat. His mother made his favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, but his stomach was in knots. His hands shook as he got dressed. He had borrowed a gray hoodie from a friend and worn jeans with a small tear in the knee. He looked poor, and that was the truth. He was poor. But looking at himself in the mirror, he realized he wanted to look like himself, not like someone pretending to be something he wasn't. The audition line was chaos. Hundreds of people stood in the massive venue, waiting their turn. Some were dressed in elaborate costumes. Some had backup dancers. Some had been through this a dozen times before. Marcus stood in line, listening to the sounds of other people rehearsing, warming up, praying. His heart felt like it was going to burst out of his chest. When his number was called, he walked out onto that stage and the lights hit him so hard it was like being struck by lightning. The audience was huge, this enormous sea of faces. And sitting behind the judges' table, looking bored and critical, was Simon Cowell. Marcus had watched Simon tear apart performers for years. He had seen grown men cry after Simon's rejections. His legs almost gave out. The judges asked him his name. Marcus answered in a voice that didn't sound like his own, it was so quiet. They asked where he was from. Chicago, South Side. What brought him here today? And Marcus told them the truth. He told them about his mother. He told them about the neighborhood. He told them about singing in basements because he had nowhere else to go. He didn't perform his story like it was a sob story. He just told it like it was his life, because it was. The voice. When they asked him to sing, the music started, and something shifted inside Marcus. The nervousness didn't go away, but it transformed. It became fuel. He had chosen to sing Hallelujah, the Leonard Cohen song that has broken hearts since 1984. It's a song about faith and loss and redemption, and Marcus knew every word from every night he had ever sung it alone. The first note that came out of his mouth seemed to shock everyone. Simon leaned forward. The audience went quiet, and Marcus sang with his entire soul. His voice was pure and clear and filled with a maturity that seemed impossible for a 17-year-old from Chicago's South Side. He sang about the holy dark and the broken hallelujahs, and when he hit the chorus, you could see it in his face that he understood what those words meant on a level that most people never would. There were tears in the audience. People were standing up. When Marcus finished, the silence lasted for maybe 3 seconds, and then the whole place erupted. People were screaming. The camera panned to Simon Cowell, and his expression had completely changed. He was stunned. The twist. The judges praised him. They called him special. They said he had something rare. But then came the final question, the one that changed everything. One of the judges asked him why he was really there. Was it just for fame? Was it for money? Marcus paused. He looked right at the camera, right at the judges, and he told them the truth he hadn't told anyone. He said his mother had been diagnosed with stage 2 cancer 6 months ago. She was in remission now, but the medical bills had been catastrophic. They had lost their apartment twice. They had been homeless for 3 months. He was on this stage because he wanted to win. He wanted to win big enough to take care of his mother. He wanted to win so his sister could go to college. He wanted to win so his family would never have to choose between medicine and food again. The stage went silent. Even Simon looked like he was struggling to maintain his composure. The judges had tears streaming down their faces. This wasn't just a talented kid. This was a kid who understood the weight of real responsibility, real pain, real love. The golden buzzer. Simon Cowell stood up. He walked toward the edge of his table, and he looked directly at Marcus. He said something that would be quoted thousands of times across social media in the next 24 hours. He said, "Marcus, I've judged this show for years. I've seen thousands of people. But I have never met someone with more heart, more authentic talent, and more reason to win than you. Your voice is extraordinary. Your story is powerful. But it's your character that will change the world." Then Simon reached over and pressed the golden buzzer. That golden buzzer took Marcus directly to the final rounds. It skipped every elimination. It meant that his audition video would be seen by millions. It meant he was now one of the top acts of the entire season. It meant that everything, every single thing, had changed in a moment. The aftermath. The audition footage went viral. It got 10 million views in the first week. News outlets picked up the story. Local Chicago journalists started following Marcus's journey. His school organized a screening of his audition. People recognized him on the street. His mother watched the video and cried for an hour straight, calling it the proudest moment of her life. But with all the attention came pressure. Marcus had to prepare for the semifinals. He had to deal with sudden fame in a neighborhood where people didn't know how to handle it. Some people congratulated him. Others wanted to use him for money. Some accused him of faking his story for sympathy. Marcus had to learn very quickly that success came with complications he had never anticipated. He also learned that the competition was fierce. The other acts in the finals were polished professionals who had been training for years. Marcus was a kid who had taught himself in a basement. When he got to the semifinals, he had a moment of doubt so profound that he almost withdrew. He called his mother from a bathroom stall and told her he didn't belong there. She told him something he would never forget. She said, "Baby, you earned this. Not because you're the best singer, but because you refused to let your circumstances define your future. That matters more than talent." The final performance. For the finals, Marcus sang an original song that he had written with the help of a producer who had reached out after seeing his audition. The song was called Chicago Dreams, and it was about his life, his neighborhood, his family, and his refusal to give up. It was not a perfectly polished song. It was raw and real and imperfect, and that's exactly what made it powerful. When he performed it in the finals, something magical happened. The entire audience was on their feet before he even finished. People in the audience were holding up signs with his mother's name on them. People from his neighborhood had managed to get tickets and were cheering louder than anyone else. By the time he hit the final note, there wasn't a dry eye in the place. Marcus didn't win America's Got Talent that year. He came in third. But he did something far more important. He became a symbol of hope for millions of people. He showed that where you come from doesn't determine where you can go. He showed that persistence and authenticity and heart matter more than perfection. He showed that sometimes the golden buzzer isn't about getting to the top. It's about someone seeing your potential and refusing to let it be wasted. What happened next? After the competition, Marcus was signed to a record deal. His first single, Chicago Dreams, went gold. His mother's medical bills were paid off. They moved out of that cramped apartment to a real home with heat that worked and windows that closed. Destiny got her college fund. Marcus became the first person in his family to achieve real financial security. But more importantly, he started the Southside Youth Music Initiative, a program that brings music education to kids in neighborhoods like his. He wanted to make sure that no other kid had to teach themselves in a basement. He wanted to make sure that talent didn't get wasted because of poverty or circumstances. 5 years later, Marcus is now a successful recording artist, but he spends most of his time on that initiative. He has helped thousands of kids discover their voices, their talents, their potential. He has changed lives in ways that extend far beyond music. Closing words. Marcus's story reminds us that the human spirit is unbreakable when it's fueled by love and determination. It reminds us that every person deserves a chance to shine, regardless of where they come from. It reminds us that one moment, one person believing in you, one golden buzzer moment, can change the trajectory of your entire life. So here's what we want to know. Where are you watching this from? Are you from the North, the South, the Midwest, the East Coast, the West Coast? Are you watching from a city or a rural area? Are you watching because you're struggling like Marcus was, looking for hope? Or are you watching because you want to believe that good things can still happen to good people? Comment down below and tell us your story. Tell us where you're from and why Marcus's journey moved you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. We're telling stories about real people who refuse to give up, and we want you to be part of this community. Every single subscriber means we can reach more people, inspire more hearts, and help more dreamers like Marcus Williams understand that their dreams are worth fighting for. Thank you for watching. And remember, your story matters too. Your golden buzzer moment is coming. You just have